Hey everyone, I just want to talk for a few minutes about where to practice permaculture, where you can grow food and connect with the plants even if you don't have immediate access to land. So there's lots of options, even if you live in an apartment or an intense urban environment, or if you're just renting and you think you won't be there very long, you don't want to invest time and energy into the space where you live, then here are some other options. So ideally, as we know, permaculture just isn't just about gardening. And if you're going to practice permaculture and practice building whole systems design, then you need an opportunity to create a system. So even if you live in an apartment and you decide, oh, I want to do this permaculture project in this other place, you still should at least think about how you can tie that in with your home system. Even if you can't step outside your door and have access to your permaculture or garden right there, how is it connected? How is it the inputs and the outputs, how are they flowing between the two places where you live and where you work in the garden? So let's talk about that for a few minutes, and I'm just going to brainstorm through some options. So the first and most obvious place is to check out the roof of the building that you live in. A lot of apartment buildings do have roof access, and there are some extraordinary examples in cities all over the world of communities working together to create rooftop gardens and farms. So check that out. The next most obvious place is to look at your local parks and community gardens and see if there is some sort of system within your local community to give you access to land, a little plot that you can rent or a program that you can participate in which you will be able to have some space to grow food. Another option is to just make friends with the neighbors. If you don't have land and they do, then maybe you can work out some sort of arrangement with them where you do a certain amount of work and they take a certain amount of the produce. Or you could just become friends and participate in this process together. So, the neighbor's lawn is an option, even if you don't have one, that you can turn into food. Another option is to get out of town and go volunteer at a local farm or on a larger piece of land where you can participate in an organic agriculture system and see perhaps a working farm where they're companion planting, and maybe they have a perennial food forest, maybe they have cash crops. There's lots of things you can learn about your food system and be able to sort of conceptualize, if you don't want to stay where you are, where do you want to go? And the more sites you visit that you think might have the type of system you dream about, the more likely you're going to be able to conceptualize that system for yourself. So go check out some local farms and see if you can become a part of that and hook up with free vegetables and garden starts and make friends and learn more that way. So it's a really nice way to get your hands in the soil, is just, hop on a bus or hop in the car and go out to your favorite local organic farm. Another thing that a lot of people don't consider is that you can de-pave your sidewalk or driveway. So if you do have a little bit of access to a courtyard or a driveway and you can't grow anything there, you can only do containers, let's say, and you want to really grow some stuff in the ground, you can remove the concrete. I've seen some really beautiful community gardens evolve in places that were de-paved. One space that I'm thinking of, it was a shared parking lot between a few apartment buildings, and a few of them had cars, but most of them didn't, so they collectively decided that the few people who had cars could park on the street, and everyone else participated to dig up the asphalt, and they put in this really sweet little garden place with like a community fire pit, and it was a really nice way to get back to the land, literally, right through the concrete. And then there's always guerrilla gardening, which is basically growing food in the existing landscape. So this can happen on a small scale. This can be as small as poking some seeds in at a local park where it's getting watered, it's sort of the right environment for that type of zucchini. Or it can go as big as like occupying an abandoned lot and putting in a full-on farm. There's lots of pros and cons to this. Gardening without permission, you're obviously much more likely to lose access to this space. And also you have to consider that there might have been like homeless people staying there, or, the space might actually be in use beyond what you can see on the surface. So consider that if you're thinking about doing some guerrilla gardening. And also if you're, just sticking seeds in the ground at a local park, then you have to consider that they might be spraying that. So do some research and, do some recon and investigate before you put your energy into creating a garden that might maybe cause more problems than it solves. That being said, abandoned spaces are just ripe for the picking, aren't they? I mean, there's in every corner of the world, there's little spots where you could certainly grow quite a bit of food, especially if you just, for short term, for this season, you can put some stuff in the ground and see how it goes. Even if you just do sunflowers in a vacant lot, it's going to be fantastic. So as you look for a place, ask yourself some questions like, how are you actually going to go there? Are you going to abandon the plants? Are you going to really be able to follow through on your commitment? Is someone else already using the space, as I mentioned before? Do you feel safe there? And do you feel inspired? And is it a place that you could maybe bring other people and develop your relationship with them through interacting with the plants? So yeah, just have a look around, and hopefully this video helped you to kind of conceptualize and see some different opportunities in your immediate environment. And good luck, and I hope that you are able to gain access to land in any way that you can, because it's really worth it to push yourself and to try. And I recognize not everyone will succeed, but if you do, you find yourself in these amazing situations with these beautiful plants. So a lot of this goes back to just what do you eat and where is the nearest place that you can grow that. That's a really great way to get your foot in the door with any sort of permaculture practice at all. Even though it's not all about gardening, it definitely always comes back to gardening. It always comes back to the plants. And you will feel so inspired and empowered if you can even just grow one little thing somewhere nearby. So start with that, and then use your designer's mind to expand outwards and see what sort of impact you can have in the natural environment and what sort of impact it can have on you as you seek better access to land. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you soon.